everyone, welcome to my channel once again. I am Shelby Osamu, and we are doing the comparison of the Bungo Stray Dogs manga versus the anime. I am now doing chapters 21 through 25, and we're going to get started now. Before I forget, go hit the like button, comment, subscribe, hit that bell, I don't know, all the other shit that you're supposed to do on YouTube. Go do all of it. So one of the first biggest comparisons, one of the biggest things I noticed kind of right away is that in the anime, there's a scene when Chuya is going to the armed detective agency to, try to bribe them into confronting the guild, get rid of 2 less people from the guild, and maybe even people from the armed detective agency. Mori sends Chuya to go be that, negotiation thing for them, and during that encounter, he fights Yoshino and Kenji, and whenever he's, upside down on the roof, or the ceiling, and he comes back down, and one of my favorite lines from him at the beginning is this line that he says in the anime. He says, "Do you really think that you're a match against gravity?" Weak to the knees, just immediately, I want to know, first of all. And I love that line so much. I had no idea that the manga doesn't have that line, that the anime added that into this moment. In the manga, it's revealed that, in the anime and the manga as well, that Dazai told them about Chuya, so they know his ability, gravity manipulation. They basically know how he uses it. And when Yoshino says, "You're Chuya Nakahara, aren't you? You manipulate gravity," and he's like, "Oh, Dazai must have spilt the beans," or whatever. In the manga, after he says that, he then adds, instead of saying the line that he says, "Since Dazai's been looking out for me so carefully, I mustn't let his eagerness go to waste." How did we go from that to the sexy line that we hear? I mean, I'm not complaining whatsoever. I love his line in the anime. One of my favorite lines at the beginning of the show from Chuya. Later on, obviously, I have a different one, but this is probably still one of my second or third favorite lines from Chuya. And it wasn't even in the manga. It's just like with Kunikita in the recent chapters, when he says to Atsushi to grow some wereballs. That's not what he said in the manga. I give Bones props for some of these changes. I don't know if the wording is really Bones or if it's something else, but I'm going to say it's Bones because I can. And let me know if I'm wrong, because I probably am. But this was just a really interesting thing for them to change. But I love the change. I'm not mad about it. I think we can all agree when Chuya says this line and his smirk, we get weak to the knees, is all I'm saying. Speaking of lines that the anime changes when it comes to the manga, during this whole part, too, still continuing on with this, Chuya only really has interaction and communication with Fukuzawa, Yoshino, and Kenji. That's it. He doesn't really have any interaction with Rampo. Probably doesn't even hear Rampo, because I think it's Fukuzawa that mostly is communication-wise. But in the manga, this is apparently the moment where Rampo calls him Mr. Fancy Hat. I'm pretty sure the first time we ever hear Rampo call Chuya to his face Mr. Fancy Hat is in season 3, I think, during the cannibalism arc. And so I literally had to watch the episode of all of this to remember, because I was like, does he call him that this early? And no, he doesn't. So I'm very curious when I get to the cannibalism arc in the manga if he calls him that then or not. I'm very curious as to how that works. Did they switch it? Did they whatever? I really enjoyed too when Atsushi and Dazai are at the train station waiting for the clerks to arrive. I think it's just Atsushi and Dazai are talking, and then, he all of a sudden disappears. Dazai does. But in the manga, there's a interaction between Dazai and a dog. And I've heard people say, oh, Dazai doesn't like dogs. He hates them, terrified of them, whatever. And I was like, where are people getting this? Is there something I'm not missing? I think it's implied in Juan that he's not a big fan of dogs. So I thought it was that. Little did I realize it's literally because of the manga, the interaction with the dog, and it doesn't go well. And Atsushi's like, you don't do good with dogs, do you, Dazai? And Dazai's basically like, no, I don't. And I would love to see, like, just like a little panel of Dazai trying to interact with the dog and being like, oh, this isn't so bad. And then it, like, licks him. And he's like, ah, it licked me, Atsushi! Like, that would just be hilarious to see Dazai react that much. Because he's such a drama queen. We all know this. Dazai is a drama queen. So to see him react something like that to a dog, I think would have been so funny. And I kind of want it to happen now. I've always not really understood. So we're going to talk about it for a second because we're at this moment and I want to. I've never understood why Mori wanted to protect Dazai from Q. Dazai is technically a traitor to you now. He was in the Port Mafia. He's no longer there. Probably labeled him a traitor afterwards. So the fact that you want to protect him from Q, and only him, like, fuck the Armed Detective Agency, you would just want to protect Dazai. What's your motive there? Like, I'm sure he has his own reasons, whether or not they're good or not. It's Mori, so there's no telling. But it's just interesting to me that Mori, during this war of the three guild organizations, the three ability user organizations would take the time to send 2 other members of the Port Mafia to protect one man who is labeled a traitor, to protect him. Like, what? And who knows what his actual reasons are, like, what his thing was, but I do believe in the possible theory that some people have that Mori does care about Dazai. I just think that as the boss of the Port Mafia, he at the same time, I think, has to show a different side. And I think there's other times, too, where there are a little bit of signs that Mori does care about him. Just whether or not the reasons are for the right purposes is probably the thing, because it's Mori, and we all know Mori is just... he's Mori. I know in a scene like this one, the anime is going to do it better because the manga is literally just standstill, it's just drawings. But the anime is actually, like, moving, the characters are moving, backgrounds are moving. But I really have always loved, after Dazai uses his ability to stop Q's doll, and he is getting on the train and is, like, basically threatening Dazai, from behind him. And as he's standing there, it, like, as the train goes, it, like he moves. Even though he's not moving, it's the train. But it's, like, a cool little moment. And just, listen. Shut up, listen. Anytime Dazai is angry, I'm happy. So I love this scene because of Dazai's angry face. Like, anytime Dazai is mad, I am a happy Dazai obsession woman, because I don't know what it is about it, but I love it. Alright, we're gonna get real for a second here. So just, again, shut up. Just, come here, shut up. Just hear me out, alright? Hear me out. I want, first of all, to know that I am not saying this because I'm biased, because I love Dazai more than anything. I am saying this because I think it needs to be addressed. And this is just my opinion, so don't come at me, but it's just my opinion of what I have when it comes to this scene. And Dazai slaps Atsushi because Atsushi is going bitch crazy, got a little panic attack, and he is, not doing great. And he had every right to kind of lose it a little bit. He literally attacked 2 of his friends and coworkers from the 88. Like, he has every right to kind of freak out a little bit. Dazai only slapped him to help him snap out of it. It wasn't because he wanted to. He did it to help him. That was the whole point. He knew that was the only way that could help Atsushi. So I know that if you think about it at this point, we have seen how Dazai was with Akutagawa. He was a little bit on the abusive side when it came to Akutagawa. Difference between the Dazai that Akutagawa knew and the one that Atsushi knows. The one that Akutagawa knew, didn't really give a shit. he was a little abusive towards him and felt like that's what was necessary. Dazai and the Port Mafia, that's just how he was. This version of Dazai in the ADA knew the only way to stop Atsushi was to snap him out of it, and it was by slapping him. If Dazai was still the same one from the Port Mafia, he would have done two things. He would have either just straight up punched him. He'd be like, you need a punch. And just went, yay! Just right there. And two, he wouldn't really have cared. I could see the Port Mafia Dazai probably just walking away and letting Atsushi freak out. That's what probably would have happened, more than likely. And I think the problem is that everybody, we at this point know a little bit of Dazai's background in the Port Mafia. So anything he does, people think, oh, Dazai's not really changed. Look what he did. He hit Atsushi. He knows Atsushi's past with the orphanage, and he hit him, heaven forbid. There's a difference. Dazai did it to help him. If this was Kunikita that slapped him, if it was Rampo, if it was Tanizaki, if it was Fukuzawa, we would not be having this conversation. Everybody would probably be happy that they helped Atsushi snap out of it. But because it's Dazai, everybody wants to throw a fit and say that he hasn't changed. I think he has. Because I think Dazai could tell that Atsushi needed to have this slap in order to show him to calm down. And he also tells him about being pity on yourself and having, doubts is only going to take you down the dark path, because Dazai understands that part of it. So he also helped him show, I get why you're upset, but we're in a war, and here's one more advice from your senpai. The Port Mafia Dazai would not have cared. Probably would have just punched him and told him to get it together and just walked away. That's the difference. People don't realize that the Dazai that Atagawa knew and dealt with and suffered from is not the same one that we're seeing now. And if you see those comparisons of when Dazai was training Atagawa, you would be able to see that. So to me, Dazai did it in order to help Atsushi. If I was in a panic mode like Atsushi, I would want someone to hit me to snap me out of it. Would I be completely fine if it was Dazai? Yeah, I would. And it was anyone. I don't care. If somebody cared enough to slap me in order to snap me out of it, I'd be happy. That's what Dazai did for Atsushi. He did not abuse him like people think he did. How he was in the Port Mafia, you could realize, okay, maybe the Port Mafia Dazai would have done this instead, or would have handled this very differently than the way this version did. And then we would all realize that Dazai has truly changed. And so to me, that's how I feel about it. Just thought I'd throw in my 2 cents. I was seeing videos lately of people talking about that and saying that he hasn't changed. And I got to this point in the manga, so I decided, you know what? I'm going to talk about it. We're just going to talk about it for a minute. I think Odasaku would be proud of him even this early on in the show. Do I think he's probably more proud of him as the show goes on? Yeah. But I think still in this moment, where I am in the manga at least, Odasaku is probably proud of him. So that is it for chapters 21 through 25. Not a lot of differences. I mean, there were some small little details, but not enough like some of the ones that I talked about. So subscribe, hit the button, go follow my TikTok, Shelby Osamu. Also go check out my Instagram as well, Shelby Osamu 24. And I am very happy that you were here.